She's my favorite relative.
First thing on the agenda is, make sure you turn your cell phones off, or silence them, please. Thank you. So I have to say the date too. I didn't do that. Is that gonna be okay?
Oh, yeah.
All right, item number 2, Public Works Mini Excavator. Finance Director Miles Greenacre will discuss leasing versus purchasing a new mini excavator for the Public Works Department. At the August 4th Finance Committee meeting, Director John Rouleau requested a recommendation to the full council to accept the low bid from Jordan Equipment in the amount of $58,134.78 for a new mini excavator. The Finance Committee's vote to recommend failed at a 2-2 vote. Director Rouleau was asked to bring leasing information to the next meeting, and they also requested Director Greenacre to explain the differences in options. Miles, you're on.
Well, there's a few questions that have been brought up about leasing, and so I'll try to cover those, and then I'll give you some comments on leasing versus buying. The mini excavator's been rented about 10 times over the last 2 years, and in June, for example, it was rented for 3 weeks. Generally, the cost for renting that's about $1,000 a week when you include the options on it that you need to perform the job.
So that's 10,000
if you-
for the last 2 years.
Yeah, about 10 times the last 2 years, but the thing that you have to keep in mind is there's budget constraints in the department, and so even if they need it more, they may not be able to rent it
Right.
because they just don't have the money.
Okay.
How much does it cost to lease one? Well, there's different leasing terms that are available. If you went with a 60-month lease, you can get one for $745 a month. If you go all the way down to a 12-month lease, then it costs you almost $2,000 a month. But
Say that again, what was that last one, Miles?
almost $2,000 a month.
But how long was the
For a
lease?
12-month lease.
12-month lease.
So 12.
And you can go anywhere in between.
Right.
The thing I found when looking at the leases is they're pretty much front-end loaded. In other words, you're going to pay a pretty good sum of the cost of that machine in the first year. For example, if you take a 12-month lease, the total cost to the city on that, if you bought the machine at the end, would be almost $61,000. The buyout price of that is almost $38,000. So you can see up front that you're paying a good portion of that lease just for that first year. Good portion of what it would cost to buy the machine just in the first year of that lease. The lease, I was asked about the jargon in the lease. It looks pretty standard. There's 4 pages of fine print covering everything. One thing to remember, if you lease, in the terms of heavy equipment leases, you're required for maintenance and repairs to perform those. So you're not going to save any money on that. If you rent it, then they'll do the maintenance stuff, but of course renting is $1,000 a week. So why would the city consider a lease? Well, there's some benefits to leasing. You can reduce your rental fees on equipment. It's certainly cheaper to lease than rent. You can provide equipment for use when capital funds are not available for purchase. So if the city's running low on money, leasing's an option. Leasing levels the operating expenses. You can plan on year to year that your leasing costs will be in the budget, and operating expenses tend to be higher, but they're leveled, so it levels out that budgeting process at a higher level. And it can fit fairly short-term needs. If you only need a piece of equipment for a year, don't want to go through the process of buying one or renting one for a year or 2 years, then leasing certainly makes sense in those type of situations. But there are advantages to buying instead of leasing, and I'll run through those. Leasing has a financial cost built in that can be avoided with the purchase. When you sign a lease, whether it's 12 months or 60 months, there is a financing piece of that that's at an interest rate of between 4 and 5% on this particular deal. Lease costs are front-weighted, as we talked about a minute ago, so you're paying a good portion of that equipment cost in the first year or two. And if you walk away from the lease, if you say 2 years from now or a year from now, I don't want to have that lease anymore, you've given that money away. Now, you could always buy the machine out and then sell the machine, but if you're doing that, why not just buy it up front?
Right.
Ownership allows some flexibility that in a replacement purchase can be delayed in hard times. If you're leasing a machine and then you have a budget crunch in a year and you don't feel you can afford that anymore, what do you do? Do you not lease it? Does the job not get done? If you own a machine and then you have a bad year, what do? Well, you continue operating that machine. You make its life last a little longer than you would have otherwise. So there are some advantages to owning the machinery. And then ownership, the overall cost is less than leasing. If you plan to have it for a period of time, it's just going to cost you less to own it. Now, in this situation, I don't think this is a piece of equipment that's only going to be used for a short term. We're talking about changing the way we do business, and so that's something that's going to be more efficient, uses more fuel, going to be cheaper to repair than other equipment that may be used. So from that viewpoint, it kind of makes sense to look at purchasing it. The alternative is if you say we're just not going to use it that much, then continue to rent one, but we really don't have enough money budgeted to do that.
I think that was my question about when you said about 10,000 over the last 2 years, and you had mentioned there might not have been money in the budget. So that'd be my question to John. If you can come up real quick, John. If you would have had more money in the budget, would you have rented it more over the last couple of years to do more work? 'Cause I'm just trying to figure out like how many years that this will pay for itself. You know, I don't know. Is this a piece of equipment going to last you 10 years and it's going to pay for itself in 5 or 6 by the sounds of some numbers that I'm running?
We expected that it would last 10 years.
Okay.
And would I have rented it more? Yes, absolutely.
If you would have had more money in the budget.
Yep.
So I guess that's what's weighing, I'm thinking at this point is that it will pay for itself very soon.
I do have a question though, too. You said after a buyout of 1 year, if you rent it, it's a lease for 1 year, the buyout is $38,000 for the buyout, is that correct?
Yeah, it's almost 38,000.
Okay, my question is this, if you're going to lease something for 60 months, 5 years, that, if my math is correct, and it might not be, it's $44,700 for 5 years.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so if that's the case, what's the buyout after 5 years?
25,000.
So what was that number again, Linda? 25
$44,700.
plus
So that
25?
comes
Plus
up to-
25,000.
more.
So
So I've
it's
done the
it's
math.
more then.
Yeah,
It's more, yeah.
it is.
I've done the math for you, so that comes up to a total cost of $69,700 and change, compared to a direct purchase price of $58,000.
And I think that thing, you know, we know what's going on, you know, at this point with the mill. I'm nervous about with any piece of equipment, and I think this is something I had mentioned to Bill last week that pretty much the department has come in and did the police cars and some other things. We really got to look here for the rest of the year to hold back just to make sure we know what's happening down the road. But to me, if we go leasing with this, like you say, if it's a bad budget year next year, you're not going to be able to, you might not be able to have any money to go rent it to do the job. So I guess for me, it just seems like it makes more sense to buy it. And maybe my numbers are wrong, but that's what I'm looking at.
And the operating costs on a smaller piece of machinery are less as well.
Right. And you're thinking 10 years on it, at least?
Yeah.
Okay.
How much work is this gonna replace that we use the big excavator for? And what do we,
It does a lot of work the big excavator can't do.
Can't do.
You know, first of all, it's 7 times lighter,
okay.
10 times more fuel efficient, rubber tracks, you can tow it behind a 1 ton. Much less room. You know, to cross culverts, it fits between, you can use it in the cemetery because it fits between headstones.
It's going to work in places that the big one can't.
I mean, it'll do a lot of work that we either can't do now, or we do a lot of work we do now more efficiently. And we can just do more work.
What kind of work? Can you just refresh?
Catch
my-
basins, you know, we have a lot of collapsed catch basins.
Yeah.
Many of them are just, a lot of the repairs we do are just that, just temporary repairs. It's really not a long-term fix. There's a lot of buried infrastructure that you don't see that's in need of repair. Cross culverts, a lot of culverts, driveway culverts. Much of the ditching on some of the like a lot of the gravel roads that we have that are not so rural, that are more in town. There's a lot of ditch work, cemetery work.
Thank you. Do you have something to haul it already?
Yeah, one-ton truck.
Yeah, we have trucks.
A truck?
Yeah.
You don't need,
We
that's
have
all
a
you
trailer
need.
right now
You
that's,
have a
that,
trailer.
it's maybe a little on the, maybe a little heavy for the trailer, but we also have another trailer that we're looking to trade outright that we don't use, a large, much larger one.
So you won't be coming back to us asking for a trailer then?
Nope.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Mhm, Yeah.
I know I'm not on the committee, but I have a question about the big excavator. How much work does that machine do these days? I mean, is that something that gets a lot of regular use?
Well, it's been 40 hours a week since the summer, essentially.
Okay.
If you've been out to the pond, it's been out there for the last 3. It's been ditching. It works a lot. Wintertime is when it sees the least amount of use, but typically in the winter we may use it on a salt pile or over on our old landfill. But it sees a lot of hours. It's still in good shape.
How old is it?
I think it's a 92.
Oh,
I can't
so
remember
it's
the
not-
amount of hours on it, but it doesn't get beat. Requires a fair amount of maintenance, but I wouldn't even be thinking about. I don't even think we should talk about replacing it at this point.
Right. I'm good.
Any recommendations or any other questions?
No,
or-
I'd like to thank Miles for giving us that information and explaining it a little more clearly. That is helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you. I make a motion to accept the low bid from Jordan Equipment in the amount of $58,134.78 for a new mini excavator.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any other further discussion? All those in favor? So moved. We'll go before the committee with a positive. In favor of adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? So moved.
Okay.
And Mr.
So
Peterson?
now we got John here now, so I can run the committee because there's 3 of us, right? Yep. Okay. So it's John, Lori, myself, okay. I call the August 21st, 2014 Administrative Service Committee to order. Fireworks. The committee will continue discussions on a proposal to adopt a fireworks ordinance regulating the use of fireworks in Old Town. So I know at the last meeting, Linda had brought this up, so I asked for it to be put on the agenda. So hopefully tonight we can either decide to go in a certain direction or just not talk about it for a while, because we talked about it quite a bit lately. So I'm just hoping, everybody knows my thoughts. I'm hoping that we could at least start with a time limit as far as an hour after sunset, except for the days of Riverfest, July 4th, the certain New Year's Eve, right,
Yeah.
exactly. That's all I've ever wanted, just to try, to see what that does. I mean, for me, putting a two-year-old down at night, having it be at 8:45 instead of 10 o'clock makes a big difference, during the summer and stuff. And I will say this year, it hasn't been as bad. People probably think that we're talking about this, so maybe that's why. But it's still at night, it does get loud, and I do agree with what Linda said at the last meeting with in town, the properties are very tight together.
And I guess that's part of the reason why I was thinking more about it is, as I said, where I live, it's a natural place down by the falls to hit. I mean, a lot of people congregate there, and that's what they do, and that's, what are you gonna, there's nothing, well, I suppose you could get the woods on fire, but that hasn't happened, so thank goodness. But when I look, and I used to live up on Wilson Street, I grew up there, the houses are very close, and even if they're doing it within, on the street itself, I would like to see that, yes, the rule as far as sunset is concerned, but I also like to take a quick look to see what other towns have done, cities have done in regards to right in the middle of residential housing. I think that should be something we take a look at as well. And I understand that it's not always the easiest thing to once it happens, trying to figure out who did it. I understand all of that, but at least I think there are people out there who do obey the law, and if they know the law is there, they won't do it.
I agree.
Dawn, have we had any more complaints or anything like that since the last meeting that we had, several months ago?
For the year, we've had 15 calls, complaints on fireworks.
Since
Six of-
January? Are we
I'm
saying since January? What are we saying?
Since January.
Since January.
Yeah, 6 of those came from July 2nd to July 6th. The most concentration of the calls seem to be in the area of 4th Street to King Street.
Yep. That's right, we're talking about, yeah.
Perkins Avenue was another one, Perkins Avenue to
Right,
Oak. is another
absolutely.
one. That's where the majority of our calls come in.
Which is why I keep bringing it up.
Yeah.
I
hear 'em too.
I mean, I agree with what everybody's saying. People have come to me and said they've called the police, and when you guys get there, they're already done and they've gone. So there's not much you can do. So I mean, so I do understand it. I'm just hoping that if we just back the time up a little bit, that might help out some of the complaints, because I think some of the complaints are just like me. I'm trying to put a 2-year-old down. Some are just elderly people that go to bed a lot earlier. And I think that's what a lot of them are.
And most, or a lot of communities have developed their own unique set of rules to go that. So you really, whatever you in the city attorney wanted to do, you could craft something if you wanted to tighten up the state law. Right now, we're operating on the state law.
Which is 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
Right. Now, at one point, I think one of the meetings we had, you brought us stuff from other towns that had certain requirements as far as the size of the lots.
Yeah, you certainly can regulate where fireworks can be discharged. And you can tie that to particular zoning districts or particular geographic areas that may overlap zoning districts, lot size. You can develop those rules however you think is appropriate in Old Town. So you don't have to confine yourself to an hour's restriction.
Right.
I don't want to make it so complicated.
No, exactly. It should be easy enough that,
Yeah, I think we need to identify areas that are more of your nut. Yeah, I mean, I would like to hear the fire chief's thoughts on some of this stuff too, because I
Right.
consider him kind of the expert on
He
the
lives
danger
up on
levels.
Wilson Street in
He
the
lives
area
right up
we
by
live.
me.
I mean, these are the, I mean.
I can hear a little better than he can though, but so.
I got my hearing aid.
Oh, you do?
We're all set. You're in
Coming up, chief.
The
I remember
downtown. Where they're stacked on each other, it doesn't make sense to, my kids are always asking me to set off fireworks, and I go, not at our house, guys. This isn't the place.
Right, 'cause you're right
This
next
isn't,
door.
we need to go somewhere. I think we need to identify areas that are, where we want to encourage, if you want to, I don't know if we want to use the word encourage, but areas we can direct people to
Right.
that are safer to set off fireworks than other areas. And maybe there's areas we want to just say, you know what, this isn't a good idea here.
Right. Chief?
When I first spoke on this way back, a couple of years ago when we developed this, I explained the problems with fireworks on a whole. Across the nation, like the gentleman that was here from, I think, from that area you're talking about the night was speaking about the NFPA stance on fireworks and how many injuries are caused and really the hazards behind them, and I couldn't agree more, okay? So that's coming from me. And at the same time, I like to have fun like anyone else. But our area of town,
Right.
which we all know that area, okay, is ridiculous, and I think it's probably the same over where you live, and it's probably the same over, I think that something could be done. I think a lot of towns, Orono doesn't, just completely
Ban 'em all
banned,
together.
completely banned, I think that now that we've let that store in, and it's a
Right.
business in town, I think that's kind of, I
Right.
think that would be too restrictive now, and really, I'm surprised at the lack of injuries and the lack of fires. I don't know if you know, but a week ago, we had a fire caused by fireworks, caused by negligence, really,
Right.
you know what I mean, of the way they were handling the fireworks, but they were also underage and firing off illegal fireworks. I don't know where we even purchased them, and doing it inside a barn,
What's
so.
what's the age limit on?
21.
what's the-
21.
Oh, 21. Oh, really?
Yeah, the law's pretty restrictive, you know what I mean, like that, when it gets to that stuff. I think that for the town, though, I think that, what you're talking, like an earlier time, other than the festive occasions, the holidays
Right.
and everything like that, I think that would have limited a lot of it.
I do
So,
too.
Yeah.
But you know, well, just for the fire department on a whole, you know, and we're not for them, okay? And our prior fire marshal in the state wasn't for them, hence he no longer is the fire marshal of the state. So, you know, I don't know how that works. Hope I'm the fire chief after that. But no, really, and seriously though, I think that something could be done for that area of town, especially, you know what I mean? And I know at the lake, you know, it might be a little different and everything, but still, even then, the time limit wouldn't bother them.
Exactly.
That way it would be all-encompassing. It wouldn't be singling out a certain area of town. It would be
Right.
saying, okay, look, at this time, they need to cease like that, and see how you do there.
Right, because I've actually had complaints even from the lake, even for 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Same thing. Dave? Everybody's going to speak tonight.
Yeah, probably should.
Dave Russell, code officer. I did a little research, and some municipalities tie it into where they allow firearms to be discharged. Is the only
Oh,
districts
interesting.
that they, which is typically your more rural areas, and
So that firearms, is that out near you, Linda? Can they do it on the other side of the?
Actually, the island, all of Old Town,
You can't.
you
yeah.
can't discharge.
Marsh Island you can't.
The whole island, you can't.
So
When-
that
could we
would,
go
that would
up
take
there?
all of Marsh Island, but
Right.
then you get out towards the lake and out Kirkland Road and.
Right.
allow
Oh, yeah,
it.
but so on Benneck Road and stuff, you're
Right,
fine.
well, actually, the way it works, the way Marsh Island is, and you have Gilman Falls Avenue, you cross the bridge.
Right.
So that's no longer the island, Marsh Island.
soon as you-
So
soon
you
as you-
can, just at the Gilman Falls area.
So you can do it
you
there.
can do that.
Right, okay. Okay.
But we allow bow hunting in Old Town proper.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do, but that, they don't make, yeah.
They don't make noise, but we're pretty tight quarters, and that was the point I made when we did that, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds like we get the majority of everybody here. Would at least like to look further into this, maybe get Eric to bring something back to us with what other,
Yeah, I think just keep, you know, the KISS rule, keep it simple.
right,
I mean, if we're going to start something like this, maybe we do just start with the time limit.
right.
And then if that
If that
doesn't seem to
doesn't
be
work.
working, then do we want to look out and beyond and see with the Old Town City problem?
Right,
I agree.
yeah.
And I'm not on the committee, so.
No, I mean, but I think at least if we start with something and then see what happens, you know, next year, see if the complaints have gone down a little bit, because I truly believe a lot of those are because of the time of the night. I really do. So I guess if you could just at least come back to us with just some things that, you gave us a list before of a bunch of them for the state.
Yes, and it's up to you. If you want a simple ordinance which simply restricts the hours when you can set off fireworks, that's fine. That's pretty easy to do. I came up because I want to comment briefly on your firearms discharge regulations. In addition to the geographic limits you also have a provision in there that you cannot discharge a firearm within 200 feet of any home.
Right.
So, which would violate state law, by the way, anyway. But you know, if you could take an approach similar to that with fireworks if you chose to. Beyond the hours, it's a question of what are you protecting? Are you protecting rural peace and quiet, or are you only allowing fireworks in areas where they don't create a fire hazard, which means you bring them in closer to the urban area, near the fire station? You really have to figure out what your policy is in drafting this ordinance. You could, one approach would be to simply, on a geographic basis, simply prohibit them in high-density residential areas, so they're not going off in everybody's backyard with the houses 50 feet apart.
Well, that's why I'm pretty sure on one of the thing you passed out to us months ago, it
Yeah.
had different cities and towns that had it. There was right within so many feet. It was like if you're within 25 feet or 50 feet, it wasn't going to happen. I know you gave us something, and I just don't have it
I think
anymore.
Bill generated some of those
Yeah.
summaries as well, so.
Okay.
I'm
That
not-
kind of wording, though, to me, is far more easy, high density, which is your R1, no, I gotta get my zone.
If you just said R1, yeah.
If residential areas R1.
Yeah.
If we put that in the,
That's a bright line rule, it's easy to interpret
Yeah.
and enforce. So it's up to you, what's the policy concern that you're addressing in the ordinance, and then what mechanism do you choose to implement that concern?
What are we thinking as far as him bringing something back to us? We want to. It sounds like we're kind of, when I can tell, a little bit on board with the time change,
Right.
from what I'm gathering, at least with that. Do we want to look further into this about the high density thing?
I like the fact
Yeah.
that that's clear and simple, because where I live is in R3, it might even be in R4, but that is pretty clear, as he said, as far as distinguishing where you can and where you can't.
So on the island, is it all R1?
Pretty much, this whole area up where we are, you are, that's all R1 because it's residential.
So even where you are, that's R1?
Dave's saying no.
No?
Stillwater Avenue's commercial, the whole thing.
Right, you're commercial?
See, yeah.
Dave,
Oh, that's right, they just changed that
changed
down
it,
by
yeah.
where you were.
what about, I'm wondering, like, over at the new, at the end of Brunswick Street, that development over there, what's that? Is that,
Hamel Lane.
yeah. I mean, that's pretty spread out, is that?
Is that?
The urban area is made up of R1, R2, C1, and then C3 along Stillwater Avenue, and
Okay, so
C4 for the shopping center.
So it'd have to be boosted.
Ideally would be just the R3 and the R3A zones, which are your rural areas. But the R1, R2, C1, C3, C4, that's all Marsh Island anyway.
You're losing me a little bit. So Marsh Island is all, it's R1, R2, R3, C.
R1, R2, C1, C3, C4.
BCPO?
And IND1 and IND2.
So maybe we could come back, maybe you could
Allow it only in an R3 or R3A
show where the
zone.
breakdown is. Maybe the next meeting, we could bring a map, show us what the breakdown is.
Absolutely.
Maybe that'll help us out a little bit, at least as far as that.
Right.
Yep.
What do you think?
I like it better distance. And I don't know if I care what the distance is, but distance from my house. You know, the people out on College Avenue Extension,
right.
there's plenty of room there to do it. Some of them have big fields and stuff like that, so, you know, do you limit them because they're letting them off on 4th Street?
Right. No, right.
So if
Yeah,
you
I
put
agree.
distance from a house,
Right.
that makes it a little cleaner. I guess they could go over on the field, but, you know,
Right.
maybe you include there no public lands, which would eliminate the middle school or the high school fields and stuff.
Right.
That's a good one. I thought of
So,
Isn't that in this law now? You have to do it on your own property.
is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
So if we can, go ahead, Chief.
I know we're in the works of trying to change this, but in the meantime, we can always, I've had discussions with the district attorney's office, we can always go with the disorderly conduct ordinance. Your neighbor can be shooting off fireworks at noontime and do it in such a manner that it's disrupting your, and you can call us, we can come and handle it just like a disorderly complaint.
Right.
So we can always fall back on that.
So we always have that.
And we always have that.
Right.
Because someone can't really interrupt your way of life just because it's
Right.
not the time limit yet, or it's some.
Right.
If it's disorderly behavior, it's disorderly behavior. We have to give them a warning. We have to give them a chance to stop it. Then if they continue, we can give them the summons,
Okay.
or we can continue. Or they continue, they can go to jail.
So even if we draft something up, we're still going to
That's
have
right.
that anyway.
We still have that.
Yeah.
We can fall back, and it's important for neighbors to know that,
Right.
Yeah.
so that they'll continue to call us
Yeah.
when it's happening.
It definitely doesn't happen at 4 o'clock, I can tell you that.
Right.
I wish it would.
that disorderly conduct covers a lot of different behavior.
Right.
Yeah.
Not just someone having a loud party at midnight.
Right.
So I just wanted to make that
No,
point.
thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yep.
So it almost sounds like 3 things then. We'll talk about time. If we can get something, Eric, if we can get Bill or Miles, somebody to get Bill to get that information as far as the size of the thing, because he did that before to us. He gave us the ordinance of other towns and cities that actually broke it down, sizes, lots like that. And then if we can get a map, David, for the next one that will show us what the island is broke down as far as the zones. So at least we can look at it 3 ways here and see what we want to come up with.
I would also add that within the island, some of your bigger lots are 9,000 to maybe 15,000 square feet. Once you get out into the rural areas, they're minimum 1 acre lots. So that tends to spread your dwellings apart from one another as well.
Well, I mean, Carol said it right. We did have this discussion. We talked about archery. I mean, this all came down at that point.
Yeah.
Also.
No one
the
worried
size
about
of
the
lots.
both narrow, but
Well, we might have to look at that one too.
can't, no.
Okay, so
But don't they have to have permission to be on your
you have to
property?
get
Yeah.
permission, yeah. Yeah.
But if the house is close to you,
But you got to go around and ask your neighbors. So you got to tell your neighbors that someone's on your lot
Yeah.
for that. All right, so at least I think we're heading the right direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Nope. Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Lori, John. All those in favor? None opposed?
It's all right.
Okay, great. Moving right along to the council meeting. I call the August 21st, 2014 special council meeting to order. Flag salute. EJ, can you start that for us, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Roll call has been taken and a quorum is present.
Okay, thank you. Approval of the minutes of the August 4th, 2014 regular council meeting. Is there a motion to approve the August 4th, 2014 regular council meeting minutes? Lori, is there a second?
Second.
EJ, discussion? All those in favor? None opposed? Petitions, communications, citizens' requests. At this time, is there anyone from the audience that would like to discuss an item that is not on the agenda? If so, please come forward, state your name and address.
Hi.
Hey, Russ.
Russ Sauson, Kirkland Road. I just sat through the Finance Committee discussion on the excavator, and something that keeps coming up over and over and over, and it's a very basic management tool, and it's called a net present value calculation. And how that would have benefited all of you through that discussion is, had it been properly performed, and it's not that difficult, it would have brought all the leasing, renting, buying, all of those to a point in time today and given it a dollar value, a single value that would have been comparing completely apples to apples. So you look at it, and I can't tell you because I don't have all the information, but we're going to go and spend $60,000 on an excavator. That's today. If you do your lease calculations, it might be $70,000 if we do a 60-month lease. But if you bring that $70,000 all the way back to today, taking into account all of the variables, trailering, those sorts of things, equipment failures, who fixes it, that all gets put into this calculation. And it's going to give you a tool that you're going to make the very best decision for the city that you can make. So if you brought that lease back today and it ended up being $58,200, that would have been a better deal for the city, because we would have had to budget for $58,000, but we wouldn't have to spend that $58,000 today.
Oh, I see.
Okay? So right now, we got $58,000. It's going out the door, but we might have been able to do it in such a way that, yeah, it was budgeted, but it would still be there just in case for those emergencies. So it's a tool that I really think that the department heads should start using to help you do your job and to help Miles and Bill do their jobs.
No, I definitely appreciate that. I think the thing that keeps going in my mind was the fact that if the money's not there some year, and if you can't rent it,
right,
then we can't do the jobs. That's the only thing that kept going in my mind, that if we don't buy it, let's say something goes bad over the next year, and he can't rent it for 2 years, what's he going to do?
Well, that's the thing, though. With the net present value calculation, you have today what
Right.
you have to budget for. So you're going to budget for that money.
For that amount anyways.
Right. So it has to be there.
Right.
Good times or bad, it has to be there.
And the other,
No, no, go
the other thing that we weren't thinking of, and it just popped in my head too, is that even though I asked how much it would be to buy out at the end of 5 years, who says we have to buy it at the end of 5 years?
You don't.
We
Exactly.
can always
Don't,
get
no.
another lease for the same amount of money for another 5 years.
And you could add that to the calculation and bring that back to today and see what that cost would be. And it's not that difficult. And it's a very basic management tool. We should be using it, especially in this day and age.
Have you heard of that? Have you ever heard of that, Miles?
I've done it several times.
You have? Okay.
I think it's important to do that, and because it gives us the true value of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And when you look at like maintenance and whatnot on leased vehicles, you know, what's the maintenance schedule on this excavator? Is
That
this
was the
something
thing
that
that
has
we-
a higher maintenance schedule? Is it a
And we
really
pay for it.
minimal maintenance schedule? Is it included in the lease? Is it
It's
not?
not.
Those
That
are
was
all,
one of the things that Miles brought up in the lease
Yeah.
that we had, was that would be our
it's
responsibility.
our responsibility in the lease
the lease.
anyway.
Oh.
Those are all things we got to calculate in though. I mean, that 70 grand in 5 years is not the same as 70
During
grand
this-
today.
Yeah, agreed.
So we have to look at, well, what's the dollar today? What's the dollar going to be worth then? I think those things are important to bring into it. Gives you a much more accurate value of it.
You're right, but let me add a little bit to this, and not to downgrade it at all, Russ. I've done net present value calculations on projects and stuff before, and you tend to do them on the more complicated things. They can be done on simple things such as a purchase versus lease as well. But to me, the answers become kind of obvious when I started to look at it. You're paying a finance charge if you lease. If you purchase, your alternate cost is you don't make that same amount of money that you had in the bank. You don't make that anymore. But that's substantially less than what we're paying for a finance charge because the banks really aren't paying much anymore. The costs of operating are the same because you have to do the maintenance and repairs of the vehicle anyway. So there's not a whole lot of things to analyze here, and I can tell you how the result will come out. It will come out to buy it in this particular instance. Now, other instances, complicated things, trade-ins, and those type of things, sure. But I think I know the answer on this one without doing the work.
No,
that's
No, at least it's a great idea, though. At least and knowing that you do it now and that you do it, and for the things you think we should do. But I never even heard of it till you said it tonight. So I appreciate that.
It's an important tool, and the thing is, it seems simple in some aspects, but like we have a little backhoe that the town currently uses or the city uses to do this work now. Do we need it anymore?
Right.
Do we need that little backhoe? So that would go into this equation, and
Right.
then does that change it too? And I think it's something we should start using as a city. It's a management tool. Where I used to work, I would buy equipment between $5,000 and $500,000, and I had to use it on all of those purchases.
everything.
And not only that, I had to use it between, if you had in this case, a Bobcat or a Caterpillar type equipment, what were the same parts of that, what were different, and that had to be added to my calculations and bring that back and what was the cost associated with that.
Wow.
And if the city starts doing that, our budget, at budget time, is going to be a lot easier. Because you're going to know the true cost of what we're really doing.
Right.
So,
Russ, thank you very much. That's a great idea. Anyone else in the audience? Yes.
Hello, I'm Ed Spencer. I live at 1140 Kirkland Road. And I get a question. I've got some comments about the contracts, 2 different items about the contracts with Casella.
That's going to be coming out.
Could I wait and have some input at that time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Instead
Yeah.
of-
Yeah. No, it's right. Actually,
Okay.
that's what I want you to do is
Okay,
wait for
but
that.
Right
Yeah.
now, just let me say, I think it'd be a good idea to consider making it easier to put canoes and rafts into the river right out here in downtown Old Town. So I think there's potential to bring more people into the town. I mean, you've got a park, kids, bathroom facility there. And with this opening up of the river, maybe it doesn't seem like such a huge deal for us because it's been gradual over a period of time, and some people would rather have the hydropower, whatever. But for tourists, I really think there's big growth potential there, and it would just benefit us greatly in the long run. And I don't think it'd cost much. We could probably get a grant from somebody to do it. So
Great
that's
idea.
all for now.
Great. Thanks, Ed. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to reports. Bill is back from vacation next week. As far as the mill is concerned, I think you guys had got my notification that the state labor department came on, was it Tuesday?
Yes.
Tuesday, and Miles attended that. We also set up for the Penobscot Regional transition team to be on September 3rd, I believe I said.
That's correct.
Yep. So I'll definitely at our first meeting, we definitely want a few councils on that. I know Bill will not be able to be there because he's in training that day, but Miles will be there. But anybody that's interested as far as the council, we can have no more than 3, correct, Patty?
What day of the week, is that?
Well, I mean, you can have more, we'll just have to do an agenda.
Okay, and it's not our meeting. We're not running it, so you'll probably just keep it at us three then, because it'll be the actual transition team that's actually running the meeting. They just wanted representation there.
What day of the week is that?
Oh,
Wednesday.
Well, what kind of time commitment is that meeting?
I put in the email. Is it 10 a.m.?
It's 10 a.m., but how long is this meeting expected? Is this like, do we
It
have
could.
an idea of what it's going to be?
They're supposed to be. I actually worked with. They were going to have it at the library, but I worked with Kyle Smart to reserve the Elks Club because they're going to have 30 to 40 people. This is everybody that's from Y people to school superintendent to USDA. It's a regional team that goes in when something like this happens, just to try to help out the employees, what they could help offer them, that type of thing. So I've never been to one.
I have.
How long does it take? A couple hours?
We were there from like 10 to 3. 3-ish. I mean, it's people going in and asking questions and,
Gotcha.
from the mill, if they have any issues, or people giving, if it's anything like the one that I attended, they give advice. If they had a bank there, you're in problems and you need help with getting
That's what it
some of
sounds
your
like it's gonna be,
your
yes,
401k
right.
or something like that.
Right.
Your investments.
Are you going to be there with the bank already?
I can't.
Okay.
No.
I'm definitely going to go.
I will check my calendar, but I think I can do that too.
Okay.
I have to do that.
Yep. And if it's somebody else wants to go, that'd be great.
I gotta go for part of it, but I can't commit to the whole thing.
Okay. And if we get up close to it, we got to switch around, we can do that also.
I'll check my calendar. I'll get back to you
Yep.
tomorrow.
Well, that's fine. Excuse me, and Bill, notified me last week, but no, this week, I'm sorry, that him and I are going to meet with Everett Deshane from the mill next week. And then following that, then we'll discuss it, whatever's said to us on that first meeting in September, which I believe is the following week.
That's right.
Right, 'cause next week's the last week, yeah, so it'll be the following week, so. I did want to just put out there, I want to thank Miles and David Russell and Frank Kearney. This week we had Mr. LaBrie had been concerned because word had got to him that he could not get rid of his sludge to the mill anymore. And someone had said that the landfill had heard the same thing, so we quickly, Miles got everybody together, and we met with Mr. LaBrie and his employees for a couple hours here, or an hour and a half. During that time, I'd asked Bill to call the mill just to see if this was true. As soon as we finished the meeting, we found out they can still deliver their stuff there for the warm months. So, but we still have a plan in place. David and Miles have done a great job, and Frank, that if something does happen, where can they bring that stuff? So they talked to Brewer, Orono, the Bucksport Mill, everywhere and anywhere to see, and Bangor, and if something happens, there is a plan in place, or there will be a plan in place, so no one will have to worry about it, basically. But it was kind of a panic mode for about an hour and a half. Needless to say, right, David? But we are all set now, so I just want to update everybody on that. Patty, something for you?
Nomination papers will be available tomorrow.
When are they due in?
September 6th. It's just a Friday.
What is it, what do they got, 2 weeks?
2 weeks, yes.
Okay. Who's up this year?
Stan,
Linda, and EJ.
EJ.
Okay. 3 seats. You guys want to do some campaigning on TV right now, or wait till next meeting? I'll have a sign for you.
Just so you know, I won't be there tomorrow, but Shannon has all the paperwork for it, so.
Okay. Okay. All right. I think that's it from my end. Standing committees, anybody? Nope. City councilors.
Me.
Lori.
Couple quick things. Does anybody know what's going on with the lights on Stillwater Avenue? We have school starting.
The last I heard from that, Dave, you can come up. The last Bill told me on that, and the chief, I know, had talked to Bill about that it's going to run the way it is until it gets fixed. Is that correct?
Yes, the amendments to the contract are waiting for Bill's signature when he gets back on Monday. And I'm hoping that they, as soon as those are signed, then they start pushing forward to get that done.
Is that, I mean, can Miles just sign it if it's gonna, is it 2 days gonna make any difference, or?
No.
Okay.
So does that mean that
Will
in
it
the
be
middle of
fixed before?
September? Because, I mean, we have school starting.
I have no time frame. I just know that the documents were delivered today for his signature.
I know there was concern from the university's end, and that's when I talked to Bill, and Bill had talked to the chief and stuff. At that point, it didn't sound like it was gonna be done. Now, maybe this is gonna.
Worst case scenario, I think we can put those back onto some sort of cycle, can't we? It's just gonna end up the same way it did. You're gonna have traffic backed up both ways on Stillwater when nobody's utilizing it.
We can change the timing on them. We gotta get somebody up there to do it.
So right now, it's on a time.
It's all time.
Okay. Because like you said before, if we go back the other way, people are gonna be sitting in Hannaford's because they can't get out, because it's going.
Right.
Because I know the university was concerned about the Friday move-in day. That's the biggest day for them.
I
And then over the
can,
weekend.
tomorrow I'll touch base with DOT and see what time frame they think once they get these signed.
Because Bill actually contacted DOT and asked, because, you know, there's money involved.
Right.
And we said, or Bill said, what if we pay for it right now, up front, and then you reimburse us? DOT told us not to pay for it, just in case we don't get reimbursed. So we decided not to pay for it, and plus they said if we pay for it, we'll make it faster. They said it won't have anything to do with it.
Okay.
So,
The problem is, there's only a couple companies in the entire state and pretty much New England that do traffic signal work like that, so.
okay.
But they do have a list, they know all the components that they need, and hopefully those are all on hand and ready to go. But I will double check and I'll get in touch with you tomorrow.
I have another question for you. What about Moran's? There.
The curb cut,
Yeah.
I'm still fighting that
That
battle.
one, okay. And then the last thing I have is Jefferson Street School. The lawn is about this high. Anybody gonna, are we gonna mow that? I mean, and there's a dumpster out
Where's
front
John?
that looks like.
What do we know? Can we talk to John tomorrow and ask him?
Did we typically mow that?
Well, it's been
Well,
part of
it's
the
a school.
RSU.
It was all part of RSU.
Transferred to us, yeah.
Oh, so it still isn't transferred
I
to
don't think
us?
so.
It hasn't been transferred.
It hasn't been transferred
No.
yet? I thought it was done already.
I thought July 1st it was
Yeah.
done.
I haven't seen anything.
Can we call, I'll call Bill tomorrow too, but then let's get a hold of David Walker, and if they're not gonna do it, then we'll do it. We don't need it looking like that.
No.
Are they still cleaning it out? I mean, is that why
Those
the big
dumpsters have been-
still there?
That dumpster's been
there
forever.
for a
And
long
it's been
time.
there for a long time. So let's ask him about the dumpster and about mowing.
I've been in contact with two different individuals and have sent them on to Ron Harriman that are interested in that building, perhaps.
Oh, wow.
One that I know has a proven track record, and the other sounds like he does, but I think that's Ron's
Excellent.
really like, so.
Thank you, David.
Okay, I'm done.
You sure?
Yep,
All right.
thank you.
Any other counselors?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Spent a couple hours at the Stuff the Bus. Lee Jackson from the school board facilitated that. That was a real success. That went very well today, so.
Yourself, Lori, and Carol went. It's gonna be Sunday again from 1 to 4 at the high school.
Yep.
Mhm.
I plan on going that day. That's why I wasn't there today. City attorney.
I was, I was just gonna say too, when you go up there, right up to high school, the pool's painted and it looks good.
Oh, it looks great. And
Yeah.
the sign and
Mhm.
whatnot.
The
It
pool
really
looks
good.
really good.
Yeah.
What color is it? Like green like this or green like Stan?
Old Town Green, yeah.
Very nice. Good. You said we're not being sued, so that's good.
Good.
Okay, good, good. Special committees, school board liaison, I'm sorry,
Just an update on the special committee.
Yes.
We'll meet again next week.
the
7
housing.
a.m. on the vacant and dilapidated buildings. We'll meet again on Wednesday. The committee's been asked since the last meeting to come together with some ideas. We're going to collect all the ideas we've come up with. People can look and see what other municipalities or other cities are doing, and then we'll kind of hash those out, see if there's any ones that have some legs, prioritize, and then work to bring the full report back to the committee, or the full committee, full council, the first part of September.
So we're making ground, then we're not just.
No.
Good.
Moving forward.
All right. City manager,
I don't have anything new.
this is your time right now to shine. You got nothing at all? I mean, come on. It's gonna be
All right.
recorded, we'll play it for him on
The only
Monday.
thing I can say is Bernie Labrie did come back in after we met and wanted to make sure he thanked everybody for our help on that issue.
Yeah, 2 hours, I think I would've got a donut or something. Jeez. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate all the help tonight. Consent agenda, who is that? Counselor Nuttall, new business items number 1, 2, and 3.
Resolved, the Old Town City Council hereby approves the suggested motions under new business items 1, 2, and 3 as presented. Resolved, the Old Town City Council hereby approves renewal application for malt liquor license for Crisani Sanos, doing business as Angelo's Pizzeria. Resolved, the Old Town City Council hereby appoints Steve Paul as a member of the Do It Field Advisory Board with a term to expire December 31st, 2019. Resolved, the Old Town City Council hereby approves an application for an off-premise catering permit to the University of Maine Wells Common Caterer to serve alcohol at the Maine Savings Credit Union's open house, September 9th, 2014.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Carol, discussion? All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you, John. Moving on to new business items number 4. City Council consider approval of a second amendment to contract number 139-0701-2012 for residential refuse, collection and recycled materials services between the city and Casella Waste Systems Incorporated. Councilor Roach.
Resolve, the Old Town City Council hereby approves the second amendment to contract number 139-0701-2012 for residential refuse collection and recycled materials services between the city and Casella Waste Systems Incorporated, and authorizes the city manager to execute the contract.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Lori, discussion. So Miles has some items. I'm gonna let Miles talk first, Ed. Miles he had some stuff highlighted he can show us.
Yeah, the amendment to the contract, I think a copy was given out in the package.
Yeah, we have it in our packet.
Yeah. On the second page,
So it's the first one in your packet, I believe, guys.
on item B, that's the item that's changing. Yeah, the contractor shall not be required to provide a truck scale. If you remember right, we had talked about the city would like to have a truck scale there when we were operating the transfer station, and that's no longer required.
So basically, it's just item B that's changed.
Yes.
Because now they own it, so they don't, if they want to put a scale in, they can, but they don't have to.
That's right.
Okay.
So that's the only change on that one.
Okay. Ed?
Yeah, I'm going to urge you to table this, at least till the next meeting. Got a few reasons. The mill's down, it's this time of economic uncertainty, and I think you could possibly do better than this on prices. I don't know if this went out to bid or what.
Yeah, you're talking about the next one.
No, I'm talking about the refuse collection pickup.
Okay.
Okay? And just for example, I saw in the paper, this is some time ago, that, and I understand these amounts, it's like about $320,000 to $350,000 a year, starting in 2018, running through 2022. And by the way, Patty, before I forget, thank you for emailing me the. You're welcome. Yeah. Bangor's Zero Sort, which is just a portion of that, that's costing them $125,000 a year plus fuel. I don't know what the fuel number is, okay, but they're 4 times the population roughly that we are. And I actually mentioned that to Bill before, and he said, well, Casella is giving them a low rate because they really want their business, so they're giving them a special deal. And I thought, we're hosting this thing. We got to smell garbage when we go by there, Why are our costs as high or higher than other towns? And I don't know really what the numbers are, with that, but it just seems like an awful lot of money. So is this really the best deal? And other people say, maybe instead of the way it is now, they pick up the curbside trash, MSW, every week, and the single stream recycling every other week. Some people say, geez, I put way more in the zero sort than I do in my curbside trash now. It'd be nice to not have to store that stuff for 2 weeks, so maybe reverse them. The other thing is, if you've been reading the local paper, there's a lot of stuff been in there about the MRC, the Municipal Review Committee, has proposed a landfill for Argyle or Greenbush. And PERC, so that contract we have, we're members of the MRC, we have to dispose of our waste at PERC expires in spring of 2018. So and the other recent development is, and this will be the next item, but Casella has got their foot in the door to dispose of curbside trash from southern Maine right here at Juniper Ridge. Unprocessed, pick it up curbside, bring it up to Old Town. So I think at the very least, we should we owe it to ourselves to check around. This is like $1.6 million starting in 2018. I think we owe it to ourselves, do a little more diligence, and there's no rush, to make sure we're getting the very best deal possible, especially in light of the mill being down. The other thing, I would put a clause in there, because right now we're paying curbside trash, get picked up here, go down to PERC, right? Be processed, stuff removed from it if it hasn't been already, turned into electricity, right? And then the byproducts, what they can't burn and the ash comes back here. Well, I think, like with this MRC landfill, they have a plan. They say they've got this wonderful processor coming, but part of that is they'll be allowed to put curbside trash right into Argyle or Greenbush. So to me, it's like, if we're paying these costs to go to PERC to, basically do the right thing with the trash, I think there should be a clause in there so that in the event that it ends up just going straight to a landfill, it should be less money, So something like that, or even, everybody knows I'm a pretty harsh critic of Casella, but even cause for termination. So I guess that's, thanks for your time on this, and I'd say what would it hurt to, to wait till the next meeting? Well, I'll leave it at that for now, I think.
Thanks
again for your time. Any questions?
All set, thank you. Appreciate your feedback. Any other questions from the council?
I guess I have a question for the city attorney. Really, we can't change any of that. We've already agreed to it. And are we not stuck on just this amendment?
Well, the amendment that, if you have an existing contract, you'd have a hard time getting out of that.
Right.
Except as provided in the contract. If there's a new agreement, that's another matter. And that would be, I guess it's just the second amendment and the third amendment to the other agreement. I have to back away a little bit because, as you know, I'm not your attorney on issues
On this, right.
Casella, so I was not involved in negotiating these agreements. I don't really know what's in them, so I don't know what termination provisions they have in those agreements.
But this was a contract we
But we
agreed.
have to terminate this agreement to start over
Right.
again in some way.
So the question is, do we know if the contract has actually been signed and extended, and this is only an amendment to it?
Patty would really know better than that.
Because I don't think it could have been, maybe it has been signed, but I know that,
I was on the understanding we'd signed this back in 2012.
Right,
No.
This is just an amendment.
That's all it is. That's how I understood it from Bill when I talked to him the other night.
Well-
The council did this back in 2012. So he said, David, this is just a couple housekeeping things that we got to take care of. So
I don't think this extension, if it's been signed, it's only been signed in the last month or so. The reason I say that is, we've been through this process, public hearing on this whole issue of the MSW coming to Old Town. I appealed that to the Board of Environmental Protection. They never really voted on my appeal individually, but basically I lost. Casella lost. They were appealing as well. They lost also. There's a clause in the extension contract that said that Casella would only sign this extension through 2022 in the event of an unappealable DEP license permit for bringing the MSW from Southern Maine here.
Sorry, go ahead, Ed. Sorry.
So, and the time, I'm trying to remember the date. I think it was like June 19th, and it would take 30 or 40 days from that date for it to be unappealable. So it's unappealable now, right? And I think that date happened around the first of this month. So if it hasn't been signed, I suppose Casella could have signed it and just ignored that clause they put in there.
I'm just going to read you. This morning I'd gone back and forth with the city manager, so there's just a couple things, and I don't know if this touches on it, but it was just about the two things tonight, because I had asked him the other day what's different. He said there was just a couple different things, and only a couple things to remember. The escalator is at 60% instead of 100% because they only got 4 out of 7 years. The truck scale requirement is out as they now run the transfer station and plan on doing it anyway, so they know how much zero sort is coming. And then this would be for the next one, that they could have not done anything since the annual tonnage request was not approved by DEP and the clause was negotiated by Kathleen and Jim Katsafikas. So that's basically, I think, on the next one, that they're actually going to give us the 60%. I think that's what he's talking about for the next one, yeah. So I guess once again, thank you for your feedback, but if I understood it, this was the contract that the council did back in 2012, and there was just these two amendments, one for this one and one for the next one, that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
Well, and maybe the discussion we need to have now is, in light of where we are financially as a city, is this something that we want to go back to? And how do we go back to it?
Right.
And especially in light, if they're giving Bangor that kind of a deal, Bangor, I'm going to guess, has got a lot more work and a lot more expense for them to collect Bangor than Old Town.
I'd want to get the real numbers for
And
sure.
I'd want to have those numbers, and if they are in fact doing that for Bangor, we need to beat them up on that. That's that kind of difference in a contract, especially in a host community. I don't think that's acceptable.
Right, we'd have to really see the numbers. I mean, I'm not sure if
That's to me, that's unacceptable.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments, questions from anybody? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. None opposed. I agree. When Bill gets back, we can talk to him about that. On the next item, the City Council consider approval of a third amendment to the host community compensation and facility oversight agreement between the city and Casella Waste Systems Incorporated. Council McLeod.
Resolved, the Old Town City Council hereby approves a third amendment to host community compensation and facility oversight agreement between the city and Casella Waste Systems Incorporated, and authorizes the city manager to execute the agreement.
Okay, is there a second? Lori, discussion. So this is the second one that Miles will tell you that, and like I just mentioned on Bill's comment, was they didn't have to do anything for us on this, and they gave us, it's on the back page.
It's on the back page. Under item 3 is the 11th line down, and it's the very last word there, 0.06. You'll see it's multiplying 3.7% times 0.06. 0.06 is the change.
And
0.6 is the change, I'm sorry. And the reason for that change was Casella was initially going for 7 years, and they only got 4. 4 sevenths is 57%, so they rounded it up and gave us 60% of the price change. My understanding is they didn't have to do that. That wasn't in the contract. Jim Katsafikas helped negotiate that. And that's the only change.
Right, so they didn't get the 7 years, so they didn't have to do anything because they only got the 4. So they went back and negotiated, like you said, and they did give us 60%. Questions on this one?
What does that mean to us?
Yeah. What's the?
dollar-wise? Do you have that, Miles, what that is?
Well, the adjustment is calculated multiplying 3.7% times 0.6 times the increase, if there is one, during the 12-month period immediately preceding such adjustment on the annual average third-party tipping fee. So basically, it's a calculation that says how much your tipping fee is going to go up.
What does that mean to us?
Total dollar-wise, I haven't done the calculation, but it was based on $2.50 a ton. I guess I'd have to figure that out.
Basically, the tipping fees, the more they bring, it's going to go up.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Any other questions on this one? Anybody? Ed?
Yeah, as far as that 3.7% times 0.6, I don't understand it, and I'm fine with that. That's not what I object to. What I want to point out, and I would ask you again to delay it, but what I want to point out is this is the third amendment, okay? The second amendment was signed in 2006, and that's what, if you talk to our legislators, they refer to as the secret amendments, because Casella and SPO was the owner at the time, State Planning Office. They signed it as part of the Red Shield deal, and they never told DEP or the legislature that it was happening. So we found out, actually, I would credit Chuck Lighthizer, found out about it after like a year and a half, pushing 2 years. And then there was a big foorah, and anyways. So that was the Second Amendment. This one's this is nothing compared to that. But what I want to point out is, I think there's a clause in that host community agreement, okay? And simply put, that clause states that if Old Town's, our city council, opposes expansion of this landfill, which is probably going to, be happening almost any time, then Casella has the right to take the tip fees and put them in escrow until a future time. So, see, Miles, you've seen it, and to me, that means that I have the right to redress my government petition like I'm doing tonight. Okay, but if my council cannot make an independent judgment saying, we've hosted this thing for 10 years, that's enough, we don't think expansion is a good idea. If you do that, it means they get to keep the money until some future time, until we have, we'd have to run up a huge legal bill, which I'm sure are pretty up there already. So what I'm saying is, if we're opening this up and changing this host community agreement, get that thrown out, because I don't think, and I guess what I would ask you to do is check with Mr. Katsiafikis and find out, is this common practice in contracts? It doesn't seem to me that it would even be legal, but I honestly don't know. But when I hear about it, mentioned to other people, they go, Old Town does it? And, I'm sure, almost half our council is new here, since this stuff's happened. And, I just thought I'd bring it to your attention anyhow. And to me, it's a freedom of speech issue, and as far as, there's also some, so in this, it's only the third item here that's changed, the language in the.
Yeah, and where it says 3.7% times 0.6.
Yeah, I've got a problem with under number 2, this section here. I'm okay with categories of waste permitted by DEP as acceptable waste for disposal at the landfill. I'm okay with that. But I think there might be a conflict because my understanding, and I was just going through this appeal process, my understanding is that the only MSW, aside from what they call the soft layer or bypass is if the PERC incinerator, has a shutdown and they need to, they got to have some place to put it, that would be bypass. Soft layer is when they begin a cell on the ground. And I thought that my understanding was that in the DEP permit, that waste has to originate in one of the MERC towns, the contracted MERC towns. But in here it says, including but not limited to the MSW that would have been disposed of at Maine Energy. So not limited to. So I think there could possibly be a conflict there that might need a little clarification by Mr. Katsifikis. So,
Make a note of it.
and I think it'd be great, once again, well, I guess, you could say that there is a rush if it, favors us to, if we get a little more money out of the.
I think that's, I wasn't going to go into that detail,
still,
but, that is on the table.
I tell you, I don't think most people understand that our council is restricted in its ability to, I'm sure, you could tell your spouse that I don't want that. But if you read that host community agreement, I just like to, once again, drive a little bargain with them and say, take that out. I don't think it's fair to you, or I don't think it's fair to the citizens either.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments, the council? All those in favor? 2, 3, none opposed. Next item on the agenda, the City Council consider extending the medical marijuana dispensary moratorium ordinance that was adopted on February 20th, 2014. Councilor May.
Resolved, the Old Town City Council hereby approves pursuant to Title 30A MRS Section 4356, parentheses 2, the development moratorium on medical marijuana dispensaries adopted on February 20, 2014 is hereby extended to November 5th, 2014. In adopting this extension, the City Council finds that A, the problem giving rise to the need for the moratorium still exists, and B, reasonable progress is being made to alleviate the problem giving rise to the need for the moratorium.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Lori, discussion. Dave?
Dave Russell, Code Officer. The ordinance is ready to go. It's been reviewed by the city solicitor. The police department's reviewed it. It will be on the planning board's September, which is the second Tuesday in September. You will have your chance to do your first reading your third Thursday, and then a second reading the first Monday of October.
Great. Questions for Dave?
I think it's come out quite good.
Good.
With what we've put together, and I thank Eric for all his help.
Any questions from the council for Dave?
No, I think it's good, too.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. Okay, now this is a roll call vote.
Counselor May?
Yes.
Counselor McLeod?
Yes.
Counselor Nuttall?
Yes.
Counselor Peterson?
Yes.
Counselor Roach?
Yes.
Counselor Smart?
Yes.
Counselor Mahan?
Yes. Okay, one more item. Can I have a motion to take an item up that is not on the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to give that to Carol. Discussion? All those in favor? None opposed? So this last item would be the City Council consider accepting the low bid from Jordan Equipment in the amount of $58,134.78 for a new mini excavator for the Public Works Department. Counselor Nuttall. I'll just have you read that. Resolve.
Resolved, the Old Town City Council hereby accepts the low bid from Jordan Equipment in the amount of $58,134.78 for a new mini excavator for the Public Works Department.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
EJ, discussion? I do appreciate, Russ, your comments earlier, too. I wrote those down, and I'm glad to hear that Miles does do that. But thank you very much for that. Any other discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3. All in favor? None opposed? So the last item, the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So that'd be, we'll go John, and then a second.
Second.
EJ, discussion. All those in favor? None opposed.